Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to the first video of our environment or level design chapter of this course, which is one of my most interesting or one of my favorite topics in the entire course. In this chapter, basically what we'll be doing as, for starters, for level design, we'll be building the terrain system, which is basically the ground and the mountains and sort of the uneven flooring that we'll have because it's sort of a forest kind of ancient rain kind of environment. So we'll be trying to emulating that with a terrain system. So pretty much we'll be replacing most of these models throughout this chapter one by one in each video. But in this video, we're going to replace the flooring and bring in a very mountainous kind of environment to the game. So let's kick things off. So what we're going to do first is, guys, we're going to get rid of this flow completely. All right. So we can do the same thing here. We're going to get rid of this completely. And then what we're going to do later is replace these as well. But for now, I'm going to start off with the terrain for this area. So let's kick things off by right-clicking your hierarchy. All right. Just go to 3D object and go to terrain. All right. So when you do this massive terrain kind of flow disappears in that area. So what you can pretty much do is design sort of a mountainous area around your gameplay at the same time, while sort of creating a boxed in formation for your game. So what I'm trying to say, in other words, is your play area will be in the center and you'll be boxed around like a mountainous area. That would be a better explanation of that, so that you truly feel like there's sort of an environment around you. You're in the middle of the dense forest and that kind of feeling. So that's essentially what we're going for as well. So my play area actually is gonna look like this. So you're pretty much gonna have to go in like a U shaped play area. You pretty much have to explore the forest and jump through obstacles and fight your enemies and get to the other side in a U shaped play area. But around that, we're gonna have sort of mountains and that sort of dense surrounding. So what we're gonna do is, once you had the terrain all done here, we're gonna move this over here. I'm gonna move this to this area. Okay, just gonna move it a little bit to essentially I'm trying to move it to this square, right? That would be a good estimation of it. And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the play area size. This terrain is massive, guys. We don't need it to be this big. So if you go over to the inspector, you have this cog wheel here if you have terrain selected. So just click on that and then scroll down to terrain width and length. So what I'm going to do is the terrain width to be around 500 and then the length to be around 500 as well. Still seems a bit big, so we might even bring it down to 250 by 250. And that's simply because, guys, we want to control the size of our terrains as much as possible. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it just enough so that it kind of drops off at this point here. Right, so also move it up a bit so player will be essentially on top of it. Yep, there you go. That seems okay. And then kind of, I want it to drop off at this point, so I'm going to move it back just a bit, okay? So something like that is pretty good, yep. And then what we're going to do is, I'm going to actually have a little drop off here, like a cliff, right? So basically, you'll be staring down at a very big drop down here in this area, at least in my head, that's level design for it. And then you'll be jumping on these platforms to get to the other side. So these platforms can either be like little mountainous kind of structures, or it can be like monuments kind of thing where you can jump on them. So that's up to you. That's completely up to your creativity. But I'm going to show you how to set up the terrain in this level. And then in the next chapter, though, we're going to go deeper into how we can bring in 3D models and design the rest of the world. I'm going to move it to the center here so that we have a bit of space here around it. Okay, this looks pretty good. Now, what we're going to do, guys, here is we're going to click on this plus mark here, which basically means create neighbor terrains, right? So what this does is, guys, as you can see, there's a little gizmo appearing here. With this, you can create neighboring terrains, just like how the name says. Simply just click on this white square, and then you have this neighboring terrain here, which is pretty awesome. And then same here as well. And you can keep going until you're happy with the surroundings. So I'm going to have a few terrains around us, simply because I want to add some mountains and stuff like that around us so that we are kind of separated from separated. Sorry, we feel like we're in the middle of a dense forest. Okay, so I just want enough space for us to go all around. So I just want to have an area like this. Now, an alternative to not having multiple terrain blocks is to have one massive terrain, but I kind of prefer doing this simply because then I can get rid of certain areas if I want to without actually affecting the entire terrain. So I have more control over the terrain because it's more modular. It's smaller and it's made out of multiple blocks, so I can get rid of blocks if I want to. But if it's one massive terrain, it's kind of hard for me to control that area, right? It's just one massive stretch of land. So this way, now I have a good land here. The difference between this and a plane, guys, is simply because with terrain, we can actually raise the flow and make changes to certain areas of it. So if I would run the game right now, yep, the player is going to do that. And can you take a guess why that is? And that's simply because we haven't marked this terrain as a ground layer. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for all of these. We're going to mark all of these terrains as ground. Now, if I run this, I should be able to basically run around. Okay, looks great, awesome. And then we should be able to, explore the world. Awesome. So that all works. But like I mentioned earlier, I want to drop here. I really want to drop. So what I'm going to do here, you guys, is just select this terrain over here. All right. And then I'm going to go over to paint terrain and then click on this drop down. And then basically select paint holes. All right. So with paint holes, I can create massive, pretty much holes in your terrain, like little gaps there. And I can increase the brush size and basically paint little holes here. There we go. So kind of have more control over it, which is good. And I'm going to increase the opacity, maybe the brush size, and I can actually select this guy. That way I can large area ones. There we go. It's almost like a paint tool, guys. So it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. It's okay because we're going to cover it up with a bunch of like cliffs and rocks and things like that so that you truly feel like it's an actual drop. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to paint it in a perfect way. I just wanted to kind of have like a just a drop there. That's all I want. So it had to be perfect. So something like this, just the more random, the better, because then it looks like it's real, right? So this is pretty good to me. So when you go to this area, you see this massive drop down there, what I'm seeing in my head, and then you'll have like rocks and formations all around. So it'll feel natural. It'll make sense why there's a drop. All right, so we're gonna come back to that in the next chapter where we're gonna bring in some 3D models. But essentially for this chapter, guys, as long as you have something like this, you're good to go. Just set up your terrain the way that you like it. And then I'm going to show you one more thing. If you go to this drop down in the paintbrush and click raise or lower terrain, you can basically add some formations to your terrain. So I'm going to draw some mountains around this area, guys. So just increase the brush size a bit and then select maybe this faded effect. Might even increase the brush size a little bit. And if you keep doing this, guys, do you see how a mountain is being formed? See? It's pretty good. It looks nice. And then I can do that all around here as well. Just form like a little mountainous area all around the play area. So makes it pretty realistic, just like a real world. Might increase the opacity just a bit more as well. So just like that, I can just draw like a small play area all around. So we kind of see mountainous formations around the play area. So you can see there's a little subtle mountain area all around, which is pretty good. So it's going to take a little while for you guys to get used to the terrain tool, but it's actually very straightforward. That's pretty much what the terrain tool does, right? It's just a matter of now getting used to the brush and playing around and seeing how their formations are created. So feel free to play around with this and create different mountainous environments. And even your ground, guys, like I really recommend you to drop down the brush size, drop down the opacity, and then create a little formation. So, that is way too much. Bring down the opacity quite a lot. Size a little bit. Create little formations here simply to create some unevenness in your level. So something like this is pretty good. Go. will create some sort of unevenness in your game, making it look a little bit more realistic. So go, and then I'll have to go back and raise the player a little bit because obviously the ground beneath him just went up, so I'm going to raise him a little bit. But if you check this out now, see how it is a bit more realistic because the ground is a bit raised and uneven, which makes it way more realistic. All right, see? That is way better. So that's exactly the kind of environment that I want. And feel free to do the same, guys. That's it for this chapter. I'll see you guys in the next video. But before that, I want you guys to download the asset pack that I'll be using for this game. So essentially, the asset pack is this one. It's called the Dream Forest Tree, which actually has a bunch of good-looking trees and nature and all kinds of stuff in there. So download this pack. It's 487 MB though, but it has really good looking trees for free. So feel free to get that in, or if you prefer another asset pack, feel free to do that as well. There's no requirement for you to use the same asset packs, but just in case, I've included the links below. So get those in, and in the next chapter, you're gonna start building the world, and it's gonna be super exciting. I'll see you guys there.